Okay, class. Now we come to the last part of this type of optimization problems, and it is the one that is based on the population. We call it generally the population-based algorithms, and this includes the beam search and then the genetic algorithm and genetic programming, and there are some more that will come next. So we have already seen the beam search or the stochastic beam search, and now we will look at this other approach that is called as the beam search. No, beam search we have already seen. So the other one is the genetic algorithms, so we will discuss it now. So in genetic algorithms, the idea is taken from the human genetics. So most of you I hopefully they know from your college biology or the science subject that how the genetics works. For example, in the case of humans or any other species, the female chromosome it is consisting of X and X, and the male chromosome it consists of X and Y. So when these two species they contribute for a new birth. So in that case, if it is X and X contributed always from the female side and from the male side, if it is X contribution, then that is a female species. And if it is Y that is contributed from the male side, then it is the male offspring. So hopefully most of you know these rules about the genetics. These rules they apply for many other features also. For example, we know that when a child is born, most of the time it's discussed that this feature of the child it is more related to father and that feature is more related to the mother and so on. So this concept was taken in the optimization. So in during this whole chapter, you see that many concepts they are taken from the different areas and are utilized in the hope to optimize the overall searching method or overall to solve problems in a better way. So you saw previously the hill climbing, you can see that it's just like a sort of problem related to mountaineering or hiking where you want to go up. So the the features were taken from there. Then the simulated annealing that was taken from the physics domain. And now we have seen this the genetic algorithm. It comes from biology and genetics. And in the future we will see another one, the ant colony optimization, that is based on the working of the how the ants they live together and how they are connected socially. So formally, genetic algorithms they were introduced in the US in 70s by a scientist John Holland, and genetic algorithms they emulate or they try to capture the ideas from genetics and natural selection. How in the nature the different species they try to select the best from their part, and we try to use them to search potentially very large search spaces. So again, whole this chapter, the focus is that the search space is so large that you cannot use the techniques that are the typical common techniques like informed search or uninformed search. So before we can apply the genetic algorithms to any problem, we need to answer some of the questions of which are the basis of genetic algorithms. So we will see them in detail. First thing is that how you represent a chromosome. So here you see, for example, the female and the male part, they are created with chromosomes, okay, the individual components. So how you can represent your problem in terms of these chromosomes, we will see over here on the example of the same n queens chess example. Then there is the fitness function. So fitness function means that to evaluate them, and then we see uh, we try to evaluate which genes, which chromosome has how much of the importance, dominance. Okay, so this is very common in the human species also. The features that are more stronger in one of the species, it dominates the other species. Okay, so then how they are selected, for example, so there are the different chromosomes, different genes coming, how they are selected, and finally how they reproduce. We'll see now in detail. So first of all, how the states are represented. So individually, each state or individual is represented as a string over a finite alphabet. So we represent them as string of characters, or you can say numbers. Okay, so the string that we have got over here, for example, this whole string, this string complete, we call it chromosome. So chromosome, there, this is the same word that comes from the genetics. Over there we used to call this thing as one chromosome, if you remember from the biology. Okay, and each chromosome, it is made up of very small features or very small particles, you can say. We call each one of them as genes. So that's why we say that these genes, they represent the characteristics of each human. Each human has special features. So basically whatever is our data, for example, we try to represent that data in terms of those strings represented by chromosome, and each chromosome is then created with individual bits or individual units. We call them genes. So here in this case, you see over here the string is a binary string, but it's not a must. String can be of any other type or form. So this is the first thing, how to represent the states. So remember, in the previous cases also we have seen the state representation. So you can say that this is just like your problem formulation. Then the second thing comes is that you, once the states are there, so there are thousands or millions of states in the overall state space, you should know how to evaluate them. So for evaluation, you should have a clear criteria. Okay, so here we see one criteria, we call it the fitness function. Which gene is much better than the other gene, or which chromosome is much better, which state is much better than the other state. That is what we want to find out. So the fitness, we can say that it is the inverse of the cost. So if the cost is high, means that the gene is not so good. We are not interested in that gene. So if the cost is low, so overall we are interested in lower cost or minimization. Okay, so if the cost is low, it means the fitness will be high. So each state is rated by the evaluation function called the fitness function. Fitness function returns the high value for better states. So fitness x should be greater than, for example, in this case, greater than fitness y. So this is fit x, its fitness value should be greater than the fitness of y. Clear? How we select it? So these are over here. Let's suppose, just imagine that you have got 18 different chromosomes from 0 to 18. You can say 19 different chromosomes. Okay, so just ignore these numbers for now. So you have got 19 different chromosomes. How you select from this population? Remember, this approach, it's based on population. That's why we call it the population based algorithm. So this is just like the beam search. Here you will select a number of different states from the population. Okay, from the overall search space. So how you select it? You select it randomly. Okay, so for example, you have 19 different states or 19 different chromosomes. You select only for example, each time you select randomly one of them. So you select for example, first time you selected 7, and the second time you selected, for example, 12. Okay, so it is just like a pure random selection. It is just like the roulette wheel. Roulette wheel is like a big wheel that is sometimes used in you can say some games like poker, where it rotates and it will stop randomly. So it's pure random number generator. Clear? So when it is done, we will see the example. It will become more clear at that time if it's not clear now. When it is done, how the individuals they reproduce, that's the important step. That's what we saw over there in the case of humans, for example. The female chromosome and the male chromosome, when they interact, so they produce the new chromosomes based on the genes coming from the different sides. So here how it happens, here the individuals they reproduce in two different ways. So this is important. Either they perform a crossover or they perform a mutation. In the crossover, what happens is that the two pair of genes, one pair of gene with means one pair of chromosomes for having two chromosomes, it is selected randomly at a particular point to be cut. Okay, so for example, here it is cut at this location, you can say 70-30. Okay, it is to be cut such that one side is 70%, the other side is 30%. Just giving you an example. This cut is done randomly. It can be 50-50, 40-60 or 60-40. So it is cut randomly, but both of these chromosomes, they are cut at the same place. Okay, 70-30, and the below one is also 70-30. So when this is the cut is done, it will divide it into two halves, and remember each chromosome is made up of lots of genes. Gene is the basic unit. So then what happens is that they are interconnected on the with the opposite sides, you can say. So if one side it is 70 selected, the other side it will be 30 connected. Okay, so here it is 30, so 70 will be connected to 30, and this 70 on the other side, it will be connected to the 30 of the others. That is crossover. Crossover means purely they exchange the parts. On the other side, in the case of mutation, what happens is that one of the bits or one of the gene inside the chromosome, that is changed either randomly. So two possibilities. It is changed either randomly or it is changed based on some other gene from the same chromosome. For example, this gene, initially it had a value of 5, and now it changes. Either randomly we generate another number 1, or maybe it copies the value from another location, any other location. So it's almost, you can say, randomly occurring. Okay, so this type of reproduction we call it mutation. So both of them, they occur in the case of genetic algorithm in terms when they reproduce, it is half crossover and then half it is mutation. Clear? So here is another example, you see. So this is parent number 1, this is parent number 2. This time over here, because I told you the cut is done randomly, so this time the cut is done over here, and you can say this is 3:7, so 30 to 70%, 30:70. So when this cut is done, the new offsprings that are produced, they are exchanging the parts. Okay, so new offsprings are produced with the mix of the two. So this is crossover, and we do it from a single point, starting point, and we randomly select the parts. So with some high probability, the crossover, it applies the with some high probability we apply the crossover to the parents, and this probability is normally very high, 80 to 95%. Okay, so you will see example over there, it depends on the value. And then the second second type of reproduction that occurs is that after it is done in combination, it's not done alone. So after the crossover, some of the genes, some of the chromosomes, they mutate. So for example, if you go back, so you see over here it was 1011 and then 011 and so on. So here it is 10110. This one has been mutated. It has changed. Similarly, there was a change over here. These changes, they occur randomly. All the bits or all the genes inside the chromosome, they have some probability of mutating. Okay. Only some of them which have high probability, so probability is generated randomly. Only some of them that have high probability, they will get mutated, others are not. So mutation is not very common. It is only done for one or two of the whole set. Clear? So with some small probability, so probability is small. So remember over there the probability was high. Crossover, it is done for everyone. All the parents, they get crossover. Okay. And very few of them are left which are not crossed. For example, 80% means out of 100, only 20 are not crossed over, 80% are crossed over. Here the mutation, it is done on small probability, small number of chromosomes, they get mutated, and mutation rate is less. And what happens in the mutation, we flip each bit in the offsprings. Okay. Bit flipping is only when your chromosome is represented by binary bits. But if it is some other method used, for example, numbers or strings, then numbers or for example alphabets, then it will be a different matter. So here is the process shown to you. The genetic algorithm, it's again an iterative process. And how it happens, we start with the initial population. So remember the same theory as you have seen so many times. We start with some random initial point. So we start with an initial population of solutions. So all of them are possible solutions. So each one is a single chromosome. We evaluate the fitness of each of the solution, and it's better I show you on the example and then I come and read this. So look over here. This is the example of this common chess board game. So it is the N queens, same problem we have seen for so many lectures. So here you see the example. Okay. So you see over here 2, 4, 7, 4, 8, 5, 5, 2. What does it mean? This over here means so these this over here, this state represents a chessboard. So over here, this one, it is represented by this thing. Over here you see this 2 means starting from the bottom. If the queen is on the first, it will be 1. If it is over here, it is 2. So this one 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2, 4, then it is 7. So total there are 8 places. So this is 7. Okay. Like this, the board is created. Okay. So these numbers, they represent. So these numbers, they start from, they have the range 1 to 8. And these 8 numbers, they represent one state of the chessboard. Okay. Like this, in the initial population, we select 4 different boards. So these are 4 different boards. Here you see another board 3, 2, 7. So this is 3, 2, and this is 7. Okay, and so on. So what happens is that for all these boards, so we have selected 4 boards over here or 4 states. For all these states, so the first step is state representation. What is the second step? If you go back, see, second step is the fitness function or fitness evaluation. So based on these things, based on these states, how we evaluate the fitness? Fitness, if you remember, is evaluated by the number of attacks or number of non-attacking positions. Okay, or how many attacks are done or how many attacks we avoid. Okay, so if you go through the book, in the book it is given that if no queen on the board is attacking any other, then we say that the queens, they have 28 non-attacking queens. So overall, the queens have avoided 28 possible attacks. In maximum, there are 28 attacks possible. When no queen is attacking each other, we say that they have avoided 28 attacks. So 28 represents over here non-attack. Okay. As the number of attacks increase, this number will go down. So for example, here 24. So it is the inverse of the attack. Remember previously we were checking for the attacks on the n queen board. Here now we are focusing on non-attacks. Okay. So 24 over here represents that there are 24 not positions not attacking, but four of them, four of the queens, they attack. If it is the original board, I think it is original. 7, yeah, 5, 2, yeah. So this board over here, you see, this one is the board number 2, 3 to 7. Yes. Okay, and this one over here, this is your board number 1. Okay. So in this board, they try to see that we try to do evaluate the fitness function. So fitness is basically 1 over cost. Okay. So the cost over here, for example, so over here what we see is that maximum 28 non-attacking positions can be there, but in this case there are 4 attacks. So we can try to find out. This is attack number 1. Okay, straight line. Which one else can you see? This attack number 2, and this attack number 3. Any other? And this one 4. So there are 4 attacks you see over here. That's why the number you see over there is 24, because out of total 28 attacks avoided, we only avoided 24, and there are 4 attacks that are happening. Is it clear? So it is the inverse of the attacks that we are representing over here. Let me give you another example. What about this? No, so it is 20, no, not 24. This board will have 23, so there is one more somewhere. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is one more. '23. Yeah, this one I forgot. This one, just near to each other. This one 5. So this is not 4. This one has got 5 attacks. Okay, and this one over here, it has got 4 attacks. Okay, so this board number 2 has got 5 attacks. That's why its score is 23, which is 28 minus 5. Okay, we could avoid 28 attacks. 5 of them are on the board, they are not avoided, so total 23 are avoided. That's the score, that's the fitness. So fitness basically means something good. Okay, so this board over here, it has 23 points, means that it has got 20, it is 23% fit, or it is 23%, not percent, it is 23 points good, or you can say it is 23 points, it is 23 points performing better. Maximum points you can get when there is no attack at all, there is 28 points there are. In the second case, in this case, the board number 1, out of 28 we avoid 24 attacks, but 4 attacks are happening. So if you pause the video and try to search 4 of them, can you find them? So here it is, 1, 2, and this one 3. Can you find any other? 1, 2, 3. Hmm, I'm not good at finding these things. So is it the same board? Yeah, 7, 4, 8, 5, 5, 2. Yeah, it's the same board. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, oh, obvious, this one. Okay, so 4 attacks are there in this board. So yeah, I hope this should be clear to you now that this over here, these numbers, they represent the fitness, okay, so, or non-attacking points. So all the chromosomes, so chromosomes represent a state. All these states, they are evaluated based on some fitness criteria, and they are given some points. Now, what happens next is if some chromosome is having a high score on the fitness test, means so it is happening same as in the nature. In the nature, those chromosomes, they succeed that have high value, that are dominant. That's why in the male and female, the the chromosomes that are more stronger than the genes that are more stronger, they are passed to the child. So for example, some genes are stronger from the father side, some other genes are stronger from the mother side. Those stronger genes, they are passed to the children, and the sum of those genes, they reflect in the children. Clear? So this is it. So this score, then based on this score, these chromosomes are given some probability percentage that how much they will be able to reproduce. Okay, so 31%, 29, 26, and 14%. These percentages are given based on their score. If they have less score, so less score means that they are not so fit, so they will get less chances. Okay, so they will get less chances to have their representation on the children. Okay, so this is how it happens. So what we do is that when the probability is assigned, after that we continue for the selections phase. So remember, there are 4 phases: initial population or state representation, then the fitness criteria, then there is the selection, and then we do the crossover and mutation. So in the selection, what we do is that we select 2 chromosomes or 2 states that need to be that will perform some sort of reproduction, that will be involved in reproduction. So for example, and this will not be based on equality. No, it will be based on probability and their fitness value. Okay, so for example, if you see carefully over here, this number 1 gene, it is represented one time. But if you see this number 2, not the gene, sorry, the chromosome, the second state or the second chromosome, it is represented by 2 times, not one time. You see, same, 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 and same. So it is a probability. That's why the first one is not done. First one had even higher value, more probability, 31%. But because it's a probability, probability always has chances. So this time the first one did not got a chance, but the second one, almost same probability, it got 2 chances to reproduce. Okay. So we select it, and when we are selecting the second chromosome 2 times, the fourth one, if you see, it is not contributing at all. So it's ignored because it is a weak state or weak chromosome. Clear? So overall, if you see, this over here is number 2 chromosome, this one is number 2, this is number 1, and this one is number 3. 4 is not represented. So 1 and 2, they perform the reproduction, and then 2 and 3, they perform the reproduction. And reproduction, how it is done? It is done every time in every pair. It is done randomly. So we perform a cut randomly. Here the cut is done on 3070, and here the cut is done on 50. So overall they have got only, in this case we only have got 8 genes. Remember, 8 columns, 8 genes. So here we have got the ratio is 3:5. Okay, and here we have got 5 and 3. But remember, this is done randomly. It can be anything, any uh, value, almost somewhere in the middle. And extreme values are less possible. So for example, 7:1, there are less chances. But 6:2, 5:3, 4:4, they have more chances, high chances. So after the selection, when the chromosomes, they are selected, they are paired for reproduction, then the reproduction occurs. So this is the reproduction phase, these two. Okay, these two are reproduction phase. First of all, in the reproduction, always there is high probability, 80 to 95% probability that crossover will occur. Crossover means the places that we marked for cutting, the cut occurs and it is copied to the other. We have seen already. So what does crossover mean over here? So you can see over here, crossover means that we, for example, copy the 3 columns from one and the 5 columns from the other state, and we combine them. So you see this, for example, let's say I call it the board A and this is board B. So we select the first part from the board A, so let's say A1, and from the second part, from this board B, we select the second part. Okay, that's how it happens. So this is you see the perfect example for crossover. After the crossover, one more thing happens, that is the mutation. In the case of mutation, what happens? With less probability, the probability was how much? I think 10. So small probability, typical values for this probability is quite less. So you see it is 0.1 or 0.001%. So this probability, with this probability, very less chances, few of them, they get some sort of mutation. So out of all the possible genes in all the chromosomes, some of them, only some of them they get changed. And this change is done randomly. Here you see one gene was changed, second chromosome no change, third one got another one, and so on. And these genes, last time you saw it was written that the bits are flipped, genes are flipped, but here the genes can have more values from 1 until 8, so it can get any other value randomly. That's what happens. Clear? Pause the video, go through it, and you can, in the group, you can always ask questions. So after this, let's go back to the theory. We will see this. So we have seen this how the individuals are selected. They are selected randomly, but randomness, it is also based on some sort of fitness criteria and the probability. Okay. Then we saw how they reproduce based on crossover and mutation. So remember, always there are 4 steps. How individuals are represented, then there is the fitness function, how we represent their value, fitness value, then how the individuals are selected and how they are reproduced. Reproduced is crossover and mutation. Individuals, we select them based on their fitness value, but even with the fitness value, they are selected randomly. Clear? So we select them, and then they perform the reproduction. This I have seen. So this is the process, iterative process. So this is like a continuous process. It occurs repeatedly. So we start with some initial population of solutions. So for example, initial population will be of some number of states or chromosomes. So here we saw in our example there were 4 chromosomes, and then we try to evaluate the fitness of those solutions, and we allow them for evolution of new states, and new states should potentially be better than the original ones. And normally this type of reproduction is done by these two, crossover or mutations. We only stop this whole process when we have some sort of optimality criteria that is met or satisfied. So if it is not met every time, it will keep on improving or doing. So what this algorithm does is that it initializes the population. Out of the population, we select some p individuals and we select them randomly initially. Initial selection is purely random. And for each individual h, we compute its fitness value. And while the fitness value it is less than some threshold, we try to put some new values inside the population p, and then we keep on doing it, and we try to reproduce, and we keep on doing it until the individual with the highest fitness it comes out. There is some over here steps given, leave this one. So this we have seen in detail. Here it is how it works. So this is our typical state space. Randomly we have selected 4 states or chromosomes. When we perform the reproduction, so you see randomly some of them they perform crossover, some other places crossover and mutation occurs, or maybe only mutation. So you see there was some probability. So crossover or mutation occurs and we see some changes, some new states are created. So then we evaluate it and we select the best ones. Okay, so we select the ones that give us the best value. So here you see cost is given, so we selected 4 of them, and then we keep on improving and we continue until we have got some sort of. So you see, I slowly, you see it is trying to converge. Here it will select these 4 best values because all other values have less fitness as compared to these. So we select it and slowly it will converge to the global minimum. Here it is given the code for implementing this in MATLAB, but leave it. We are not interested in this. So this was all our genetic algorithms. Based on genetic algorithms, then there is the concept of genetic programming. Genetic programming is basically the use of genetic algorithms, and we use those concepts to program the computers by means of simulation, simulated evolution. So we try to simulate it, how it will occur. So we are just like telling the computer program without explicitly informing it. We try to tell it how to do something. This is not what, I think it's how to do something. So genetic programming, the main point is that it is genetic algorithm where solution is a program itself. So the main difference between genetic programming and genetic algorithm is that in the case of genetic algorithm, you were representing the states as strings, but over here we represent the states as a sort of a program represented by some tree. Okay, so that is important difference. So chromosome, it represents an entire program or a function itself, and then we call it genetic programming. So remember, the state, it represents a whole program or a function. So in order to make it work, the encoding is often done in the form of this tree representation is used, and when we try to perform, the rest of the theory is same. Crossover, when we want to do it, we just swap one part of the tree, for example. So here you have got 2 parents, A and B, and these are the cuts that are created inside the tree. One cut, second cut. And here also you have got different cut, this one and this one. And in the offspring, in the children, we are using the cut one from here, you see, and the second cut that was on the left side, we attach it over here to the right side of the tree. Clear? So it is possible to evolve whole programs like this, but normally it is done on small programs, because when the programs they are very large, they become complex to handle. So this is the genetic programming. It can be used for many different problems. One of the example problem that is used by this method, it is the classification. So this is a typical problem in classification where you have got two types of dots. Let's say one is this white dot and the other is black dot, and you are asked to separate these two dots by a single line. You cannot put a straight line to separate it. So definitely they will be separated by a line that passes like this. So you see, sorry. So line will go like this, spiraling inside, and it is separating the two sections. And finally, it will be separated over here. Now you can say that one side of the line, it contains black dots and the other side has got those white dots. So this can be done slowly with the help of this crossover and mutation in genetic programming. Leave this one. And this was about the genetic programming and genetic algorithms. These are all of them, they are quite new topics. In the past 10-15 years, there is a lot of work that is done on these areas, and still they are very active research topics. Some other newer algorithms, I told you there are many different types. Optimization techniques, they have taken the ideas from many different areas. Either it was physics or genetics or normal, you can say hiking or mountaineering. One other area from where the optimization ideas were taken was how the natural the species they behave in the natural environment. For example, ants. Now these ants, very small insects, but they work in, and they are you can say very weak and not so strong, but they work in groups to perform some very big things. And their intelligence and how they behave, that fascinates humans since a very long time. So basically the idea over here is that optimization techniques, we try to learn something from how the ant colonies they live, how they live together in a very big society or a colony. So fairly simple units, they are very simple. Ants themselves are very small, weak, and these simple units or the ants, they generate some complicated global behavior based on their collaboration. So they work together and they produce some behavior which is not so simple. For example, they try to carry large items, very big items. So many of them, they will carry it together. They can form bridges. So for example, 3, 4, 5 ants, they will hold each other and the others will pass over them, and this is quite intelligent behavior that they show. And then also they are very efficient in finding the shortest route or shortest path from their nest to the food source. And this is also a very quite intelligent approach, and that is always a source of fascination or interest shown by the scientists. So an ant colony, it expresses complex collective behavior by providing intelligent solution to these problems. So this is a saying by the Gordon, a scientist Gordon. If we knew how an ant colony works, we might understand more about how all such systems work. For example, from brains to the ecosystem. So ants, they behave so intelligently, and that if we can understand them, we can understand many other complex things, like human brain, how it works. Here are some examples. For example, how they discover the shortest path. So let's suppose ants, they are walking between their nest and there is some food somewhere, so they go over there for the food. So they walk between these two places, and let's suppose you take a small stone and you put somewhere, block their path. So you put an obstacle in the middle and block their path. When it happens, what they will do is that ants, they will turn left and right, and some of them will go to their right, some of them will go to their left. And when they are doing this, they throw or drop a special type of hormone or secretion or liquid. So they throw this hormone or liquid called pheromone. So they throw it, and based on that liquid that is thrown, so it is thrown everywhere. When the future ants, they come, so when they are coming, they smell it, and based on the smell, they can know, they can evaluate it, that how much distance they have covered from this path. Okay, so for example, they can smell and they can know that from this path they consumed more pheromone, and the other side they consumed less of this liquid. They smelled less value on this side, and on this lower side they had more value. So when they communicate, you will see, you can do this practically somewhere, you will see that in a very short amount of time the ants, they optimize, and they leave the longer path and they stick to the shorter path. Clear? So ants, they get to find the shortest path after a few minutes. So for example, let's say this is the nest of the ant, and this is some area where there is some food. So when they are beginning, after 4 minutes of their beginning, they are trying different paths. So they don't know, they are even choosing some longer paths, some shorter paths, and they are trying. But after some times, when for example 8 minutes have passed, most of them now they are converged on the most optimal path. So this is very intelligent behavior that is based on some sort of collaboration. Clear? So how it can be used in the optimization techniques is, we can say that ant colony optimization. In that case, what we do is that there are small artificial ants, ant programs or ant units created. So what is this program? It is a small probabilistic mechanism. So it is based on probability. So it is a small program or a small mechanism based on probability that will construct a solution to the problem. Okay. So what we do is that the scientists, they have worked on this, and they produce some sort of artificial secretion or hormone, artificial hormone, pheromone that is produced, and that is consumed, and we can detect how much it has been used. What is the trail for this hormone secretion, and how many cities have already been visited. So heuristic information in this case, remember, is basically where it was, the secretion was sent. So for example, on this path, the ants started to put more secretion. On this path there was less secretion, means that that path is more common, that path is more used, and slowly all the parts of program, they converge on the shortest path. So remember, these are cutting edge, latest ideas that are more focused by the research community. So what happens? we initialize this ant colony optimization. So we try to construct some basic solution, apply the local search, and keep track of these pheromones that are produced and detected. So here you will see some examples how it works. So remember, we have already discussed the traveling salesman problem. Traveling salesman problem can be solved using the ant colony optimization. So initially you see there were some of the paths that were badly selected. You see over here, very long path is selected between these two cities. And slowly, when the time passes, based on this ant colony optimization, the programs they produce and they emit some sort of markers called pheromone, and the other programs they detect it how much it was produced. Slowly, with the time passes, the program is improving the path between the cities, and at the end you see it is quite an optimal path. You see over here there is no path which is too longer. So I hope it is clear. Take your time, you can ask questions in the group about this. So this was overall the chapter on local search based optimization, and then there was population based algorithms for optimization. So local search methods, they are memory efficient. They only use a small part of memory because they always keep small number of nodes in the memory. Even in the case of, you can say, taboo search, they are keeping track of less number of memory nodes as compared to the overall number of states. They are suitable for problems where the solution is the goal state only. We are not interested in the complete path like in the case of maps like Google Maps. So we are not interested in the complete path, only in the goal state. So we have seen in this chapter hill climbing, then the stochastic hill climbing, also called as simulated annealing. We saw the local beam search, and we saw the examples, the three type of examples: the traveling salesman problem, Anne Queen's problem, and the map coloring problem. We saw the stochastic algorithms that represent another class of methods for informed search, and we saw that genetic algorithms, they are a special kind of stochastic hill climbing search. You can say that they are also like a special type of hill climbing. We are trying to climb the hill, go up, improve the value, okay? But in this case, large population of states is maintained and new states are generated by the reproduction from the original states. So reproduction is done, new states are generated by the reproduction, which is done by mutation or crossover. Clear? So this was our lecture on the search methods based on local search, and hopefully see you next time with new lecture.